Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Razak at CMtrading. Today's November 25th, 2020, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the Dow Jones hits 30,000 points, all-time record highs. An unbelievable move, over 400 points rally yesterday. Now looking at the economic calendar of today, two items coming out of the United States. First, at 3:30 South African time, durable goods orders coming out. And then at 9 p.m. South African time, everyone's interested in the FOMC interest rate decision coming out later this evening. Now, looking at the markets, okay, there's definitely a rotation as we're watching the markets hit new highs. U.S. dollar weakens versus the major pairs while the euro takes the greatest gain versus the U.S. dollar. Looking at the indices, Dow Jones, of course, at 30,000. NASDAQ finally catches up and breaks that route. Now, looking at the commodities, gold continues to break down while oil explodes to $45 a barrel. Lastly, looking at the stocks, the FANG stocks make it about facing it stronger. Alcoa once again is the star of the show, and Bitcoin hits 19,000. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So going to first take a look at the Euro USD at a daily chart, just to give us a perspective here. If we look at that, we could see that it's hitting that 119.063 at that resistance level. Now, this is at resistance level, so just be aware of it. This whole area is really resistance area. It's very hard to pinpoint a specific point where something is going to break through here, okay? But if we do get that momentum on the upside, I think we could break through. Now, looking at the GBP USD, trading at 133.72-ish level as it gains closer to its highs, okay? It's interesting that the euro looks like it's leading versus the dollar. Now, jumping into the rand, there we go. We're below that 1540-ish level and breaking down to 1530. This is looking very good for the South African rand as it's getting stronger versus the US dollar. Now, jumping into gold, you see the opposite result here, okay? Instead of gold going up, it's actually going down. Struggling at that 1800-ish level. That's a support-ish level. 1800 is a very important level. And we actually have to go to a daily chart to give us a perspective here of how far we've come in the price of gold. Now, jumping into oil, we're really hitting this high of $45. Now, we haven't been in this area. Okay, this graph doesn't show justice for this because ultimately this graph is only 2 months old. And we saw oil go down to $8 negative in May, if you guys remember. So this is unprecedented that it's going above $45. It's a very important fact. So keep an eye on this if it does continue to make that new highs. Now, jumping into the Dow Jones, you see we're at 30,000, just above it. Now, this is very timely as the FOMC is coming out with a rate decision later today to discuss the economy, and as new cabinet ministers are discussing a new stimulus package for the U.S. markets, okay? Now, that doesn't affect everybody in the world, but it affects Americans. And if it affects Americans, it trickles down to the rest of the world as well. So with that said, we are trading at 30,000. To say it's a very hard play here, to tell you the truth. I don't like these type of situations where you're on your dead highs. There's not much of a retracement, and then you get yourself caught up here with a correctional move on the downside. Okay, the stocks and the indices are trading in tandem, which means that the stocks, there's nothing going ahead of time. There's no relative strength here. It's all factored in. So with that said, I'd really keep an eye on all those stocks that are making the Dow Jones go up. We're going to take a look at it in just a second. But jumping into the NASDAQ, we broke that 12,100-ish level above that area. We were trailing with it yesterday. We were having a very hard time breaking above it, but we finally broke above it. Now, looking at the individual stocks, Apple, is it stronger? It went up $2, but nothing to really write home about, okay? Facebook also, okay? Facebook actually did break up a little bit higher. Microsoft, okay, it went up $2. But I'm saying the market at large went up, okay? There's no leader of the pack. This is not the same graph as if I look at Alcoa, which is making all-time new highs, okay? There's a difference between this graph and Microsoft, okay? Both about the same time frames, okay? But in this graph, what we see is breaking new highs, and in the other one, We just see it consolidating in this area. Now, that's not to say that Microsoft might not break out higher in, let's say, a month from now. But for right now, the focus is listed stocks. It's Alcoa as we're looking at it. We did mention this earlier this week that it was getting stronger above its resistance edge level, 1655. Did break above it with some momentum. Again, it kept on doing gap and goes, gap and goes, gap and goes. And sure enough, we're at that level right now. Now, we're on a third day here, of which we've rallied. Okay, so third day is a charm. So that's usually a day what we do retrace. So just keep that in mind as we go into today. Looking at JP Morgan, also 123, unbelievable. Okay, but when we look at the tech stocks, they're not going higher. Okay, looking at Cisco, it did, but Amazon is dead. Okay, not going higher here. So markets are going to more the stocks that were beaten up because of the coronavirus, and now everything is just, the ones that were, doing very well during the coronavirus are now in the background. Okay, they're in the back and the back end of things. Okay, so they're not in the forefront, and people are not just as buying them as aggressively as some of the ones that gotten beaten up. Now, looking at Bitcoin, okay, this is the last one we're going to look at. It's trading at 18,962. We were trading at about 19,000 this morning. Okay, so we've retraced a little bit, but it did hit 19,000. Now, to highlight the fact again, all right, just this broke out from 11,627 and rallied over 7,000 points. Now, this does have what to do with the Dow Jones, okay, and as we go into the end of the year, this is rallying, okay? Now, I do want to highlight the fact that this was our high of last time of 2017 that we hit exactly 3 years ago, minus maybe 2-3 weeks. But I want to highlight this because if it does break above it, if it does sustain above it, it could continue going higher, okay? So if the markets do continue giving us this momentum today, we could see further push on the upside. But with all the factors into play and the fact that we have an FOMC interest rate decision tonight, these are things that you want to be very cautious about, okay, on the downside, because, this could really just shake everybody out in order to take it down later. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish everybody a great trading day. Thank you.